Okay, so let's talk about the shadow of survival, and I'm going to have a little snacky while we do it. We're not talking about some of the narcissistic survival adaptations we ourselves may have learned having to grow up in these environments, and I want to unpack that today. Now, let's focus on this trap, or like the myth of the adult, okay? This idea of the should trap. And so I want us to reflect on the societal expectation of age and how that backfires on us when we place that in a fine print in a contract that nobody else signed. Meaning that becomes an expectation on XYZ person's behavior because of their age, right? This age means emotional maturity, when clinically that's not the case. Age is just a chronological marker. I truly believe that age just represents the marker of our body, the physical flesh. Imprints, just like drug use, right? Substance use. Let's say I have a client or a person in my life. Let's say this person right here was someone that struggles with substance use. Let's say they started at 18 years old. And let's say they're 45 now. Their body is 45 years old. Their mind, emotional maturity level is still back there at 18 when that trauma of introducing the drugs came in. That put a pin in their developmental state. So their body continued to age without their mind following it. That can be the same true with traumatic events. So there's like this neurosis of adultery. There's like this neurosis of adultery. And I'm going to say this word wrong, so bear with me, okay? The Pierre Eternus, the eternal boy, and the Puella Eternus, the internal girl. These are Jungian, these are archetypes. Can I figure out how my life? Let's talk about the eternal girl and the eternal boy. These are archetypes in Jungian psychology, okay? For those who fail to grow up simply because they were never safely mirrored as children. This happens a lot. Remember, I want us to re-listen to that last part, okay? Okay. They were never mirrored as children. So when we are so quick to look at our elders, we were never mirrored as children. They were probably never mirrored as children. We point the finger at them. Narcissist, you're this, you're that. Okay. What is the side effect that we gained? Doesn't say it's a positive gain, but what is the side effect we inherited because of the system we lived in? That's something that we want to reflect on. There is a level of grief too that I'm noticing some of my clients are struggling with metabolizing. I think I myself have been in that state as well. And I find myself struggling with the same concept, except with America, the country. I know some people are already going to try to assume what side I'm on just simply because I brought up the country. And that right there is Pavlovian conditioning. And you don't see it because you think, oh, it's politics, that it's okay to have that level of conditioning in you. Because if that's how you think there, that same trait is going to show up somewhere else in your relationships with family, friends, your partner. Just like when you grew up in that house, in that Pavlovian conditioning. Okay, it's the same thing. That's why my work always bridges micro, macro. The concept of the huge child, God, I don't know how many, if I had $1 for every time I had to sit with a client that was like, oh my God, they're a huge child. And I'm like, welcome. That's a reality. And it comes from this expectation that our parents were supposed to be adults or mature, right? I left grad school. I was very unimpressed with my grad program because I went in there with a fine print expectation. Sure, I thought that that program was going to be held to a standard. And I felt like there were very infantilized adults that were also in part of that program. So basically what I'm saying is our expectations, right? We grow up and we think our parents are going to be XYZ. And when we realize they're just a huge child too, that creates something. Because then it might make us, there might be an existential thing that shows up, right? Because, oh my gosh, for some of us who have our parents there, right? That could feel like abandonment in some way, shape, or form. Because now that there's going to be a void in that spot. My parents are not the mature people I thought they would be, right? We also have to consider developmental arrest, okay? What happens when substances, trauma, whatever severs the timeline but makes the body continue aging and then there's no emotional development, that stops. If you think about this, right? Let's say the imprint's at 19 and my body's 35. My body's 35 and then I'm going through my environment. Something in the environment creates a trigger. I am now at that teenage state. The amygdala does not have eyeballs to be able to identify, 2026 event. It doesn't. It scans it through our filtration system. And then the amygdala is like, goes into the hippocampus archives. The hippocampus archives are literally the memory center. There is nothing in there for the future. There is nothing in there for the future. We are going to dig in there and project that onto the present or onto the future. We have to make sure we understand that, okay? And then my has a response, right? Based off what the hippocampus archives showed the mind in, this is happening, villain, right? This is happening to people who watch my work, get booty tickled, and then call me a narcissist, call me a victim blamer, call me all these things. You're doing the same shit. I just still accept you. Now, that's our ass. I don't know if you read my article. I'll link it down below. That is our ass that shows. And sometimes it looks like a huge child too. If we have grace for that internal process that shows up in us, but we do not have it for our partner or anyone else, we have to understand why. We have to understand why. We have to reflect. This particular person that messaged me said something so beautiful about how they realized in their relationship that they had adopted, and there was grief there. I could feel it. I'm very intuitive. I could feel it. Grief that they were seeing what was in their parents that harmed them. They were seeing some of that show up covertly in their romantic relationships, getting close, using that closeness to influence and control, right? Because that's what keeps us safe. That's the lie the brain is telling us, because we are in survival adaptation still. You're in the same blueprint. You haven't retired out that blueprint. That blueprint was created from your parents. When you retire out the blueprint, you take what you need. Maybe there's really good values that you like about everything. What if we come at generational stuff with compassion, with empathy? Y'all are always demanding compassion, but you don't give it to the ones you say harmed you. Have any of you watched The Shack? I recommend that movie. I recommend it. The extremists here are not going to do well with this video, because We have to grasp at the George of the jungle vines. And I want to challenge you here because this work is exposure therapy. If you feel the sense of grasping, pause. Let's breathe. Drop the shoulders, unclench the jaw. Let your body sit in that as the new norm. This is not the norm. This is the norm. This is not the norm. This is the norm. But a lot of us, we're like in frazzle as our baseline. And then when nobody matches us there, we think no one cares about us. We're doing the same thing the older generation did. How is there so much avoidance, but yet y'all know everything? Yeah, she was this, and she said that, and she means this. How? This is making meaning Olympics. That is mind reading. When we have avoidant attachment styles involved in this soup, anything that you have floating in your mind, you have to ask yourself, what are the facts? Do I even know them? Committee, do we even know the facts? Probably we don't. Because it's going into the hippocampus archives and it's pulling from there. And it's like, Oh yeah, remember this bitch from 2005? And then it's projecting all of this onto the present, onto that specific event. Now, let's go back. Let's keep going, okay? How are we liking this? How are we feeling? Do we need a drink? Do we need a little sip? I know I can get chatty. So the NSA, the narcissistic survival adaptations, all right? What's happening with these conversations is we're only focusing on the abuse that we endured. And there's this concept by Freud called the identification with the aggressor. And I want to explore this a little bit, okay? I have seen this play out in so many family systems. I'm actually so blessed for my clinical experience in El Paso because for one, my research, it's my ethnographic research. I feel like this is such a great place to do this. I'm also not from the city, so I think it's an even better place to do this research and practice and explore. This is all happening with myself, okay? Like, and also with some of my clients, because I've noticed some of the professionals here don't want to hear it. And I wonder if it's because they're a part of it. That leads me to a whole nother thing, because how are the people who are a part of the system getting help if the people they're going to get help from are also a part of the system? And they're encouraging the avoidance. They're encouraging you not to speak up to your parents because we don't do that, right? How is there ever going to be bridges occurring, right? I had a woman who went to the doctor and the doctor told her, oh yeah, your sex life days are over. And I'm like, the fuck they are? Excuse my language. But no, they aren't. That is a lie. She's projecting onto you. But people will eat that up because they have white coat syndrome and they believe the damn doctor. I gotta relax because that pisses me off. I get so booty tickled about this. It makes me so mad when people, and you know, I've had a lot of clients tell me this just about like everyone is from Mexico or has roots in Mexico. And everyone that I work with would always say, don't trust a Mexican. And I'll hear the same shit in the Black community. And it's the mindset of people want you to do well, just not better than them. And if you grew up, so now we're not even just talking generationally with your parents, right? We're now talking about if we're identifying with Freud's concept of like identification with the aggressor, right? We now either, let's say there's two siblings in this parental dynamic. One sibling learns to shrink. The other one learns to be loud, be big, because that gets results. Same thing. Now, does that mean that this person doesn't develop some sort of identification with the aggressor? No. Because what they don't do to the aggressor and now to this person. It doesn't matter who it is. They do to people at work, their employees, or their partner. Right? So all of those covert traits might happen in that dynamic, whereas this person's more, everybody's afraid of this person. Even the person that conditioned this person, the parent, right? Now the parent scapegoats this one. This one learns, oh, I don't have power in this system. They then leave the system and exercise that power elsewhere. You see this all over the macro. These people are just exercising their power all over the place. That's why they learned, right? And so the child's ego with identification with the aggressor, they adopt the caregiver's traits to feel a sense of power or control so they don't feel helpless. Does that make sense? So let me give you this example. A parent manipulated through emotional proximity. I hear about this all the time, especially with new parents, and you want boundaries with the mom, the mother-in-law, whatever it is, and they find ways to get through that, right? So then what ends up happening? If you're a child that grows up in that, you realize that closeness means they have leverage over you. I will share this transparency. It's very hard for me to be opening up with anybody these days, except my husband, because people use your vulnerability against you. And it's not that I care anymore, but the old version of me used to collapse. Like, why would you do that? Oh my God. Because again, they need power. They need to feel a sense of control. I have experienced this a lot with other women, and it never made sense to me, but psychologically it does. It's a complete reenactment of what I've experienced with my mom. And I do feel that sometimes there are people in your life that'll see a light in you and they're drawn to you. And it's not that they're drawn to you for any reason that is pure. It's because they actually want to know your blind spot so that way they can feel better about themselves, because actually seeing your light makes them feel less than. That can be called dark empaths. That can be called energy vampires. You can call them whatever you want. But that is also something that is a thing. It's just the same thing when you see mothers that project onto their daughters. That's very, very common, especially if that daughter ends up becoming something the mother never became. Lots of displacement, lots of projection. So the shadow of influence here is essentially what this person wrote in, talking about how they were noticing how they showed up, which is kind of like what those women tend to do, right? If I can bend my partner's internal world, I will be safe. I have seen this with mothers. And it's crazy because when the mothers get older and they're adults, their kids are now adults with their own kids. And sometimes these moms I picked everything for my child. I didn't give them the options. I picked out of those and then they could pick from here. Over time, that being done positions the mom in a safety, because then she gets what she wants. And then that Pavlovian conditioning, right? That's going to change when this child becomes an adult and now wants to reach from the actual tree themselves and pick from that and not just take what you picked for them. Does that make sense? And so now these parents, mothers, collapse because now their child wants to go directly to the source to choose and decide for themselves. That means they don't have influence anymore. Narcissistic injury shows up. Where do we do the same thing? When people show their agency, and these days, the peskiness of it all is like, well, if they're a racist, if they're a this, if they're a that, if they're a this, you're back in the moral superiority shit. You think you're better than all of these people because they voted that way. Have you ever broke bread with any of those people? You think that person's a narcissist because you saw a clip. Have you broke bread with these people? Polarity. You are conditioning your brain BPD traits if you guys don't stop that. Stop it. Okay? People are allowed to vote, believe, align with, have whatever it is that they want to have. Why are you focused on that and not you and what you need to work on with your own family line, right? That part is going to be very hard for a lot of you to understand, because a lot of you don't realize you're hanging out with the villain because they're like Henry, they're Vecna from the Upside Down. They've disguised themselves as a friend, and they're really an enemy. You'd rather have, just like the parents, my husband's Punjabi. So like, and I told my husband this, I'm not comfortable with lying to your mom that I took a shower because I can't eat meat and get into this suit. Okay. But the cultures, man, we're changing our outfits in the car when we leave to go to school or when we get to school. We're lying and said we didn't eat this when we really did. That to me is conditioning my body to live a life of not being in alignment just to please one person. Who's that going to impact over time? Right? And so if we think about what a balance looks like in a situation like this, where you're dealing with something like that, is I just say the truth. And if you're upset about it, okay, I don't know what to tell you. I can try it on tomorrow. And that's what you leave it at, right? A lot of times, the fear of implementing the balance is because you think you can't survive what you've already endured your entire life. They're going to yell at you, okay? Doesn't she yell at you when you do nothing? Right? That's something I talk about with my clients all the time too. Your fear is only loud because the behavior is different on your end. Now, imagine you check into that gym, the behavioral change gym, and you're consistent every day. You're using your staple statements. You're like, Mom, stop. You're doing it again. Stop. I love you. I love you, Mom, but I'm not doing it. I already told you. Mom, come on. The neighbors don't care. The neighbors do not care. You don't know the neighbors care. They are so preoccupied with what people will think, because for them, that was what kept them safe. What people think was a danger to the older generation. We have to come at the older generation with a lot more compassion. And that's not easy, especially when some of them have harmed us. I'm very well aware of that. But drop that real quick and just think about the level of training and what you are alchemizing for understanding that, even though the pain wasn't reciprocated, or not reciprocated, the pain wasn't acknowledged, none of what you're doing is being reciprocated. Stop. Because when you do change for an expectation, it's not pure. When you do change, simply for showing up for you consistently, that's where the real work comes in. And then over time, you realize the system actually does change, because now through your change of consistent effort on your part for just showing up, effort for, no, Mom, I'm not doing that. And then moving yourself out of the environment if it becomes, because these people are going to tantrum. These people are going to XYZ, to pecking you back into the guilt that makes you shrink, that makes you comply with them. Are you going to handle? Can you hold the weight of that distress? Are you going to give in? Are you going to go back into the guilt? No. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go get some pho. I'm going to go pet my dog. I'm going to go listen to music. I'm going to go away from you while you have your shit-sitting reflection time. And then I show up again and I do it. And I show up again and I do it. Oh, you're selfish. Since when did you act like this? Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I raised someone like you. Those words are going to keep coming. They're going to keep coming. Now, for some of us that are in extreme situations, I don't recommend this. My recommendation for you is the only balance that you can have is if you're not living in the home. If you're living in the home with these people, this protocol is great, gray rock in it. But gray rock, I will speak for myself here. I cannot operate from a place of gray rock consistently every day. It doesn't vibe with my jams. I'm a very like Teletubby sun in the sky energy. Being a gray rock is not sustainable for me. That will dim my light. My little plant will wilt. And so if you're in environments where you are constantly gray rocking it, that's probably a sign you should not be in those environments. Now, this is where the people who come in and say, not everybody has the means and not everybody this, make the means happen. I've sat with way too many women who were stay-at-home wives, stay-at-home mothers, stay-at-home, didn't work, had to leave and flee and get out. They had to downsize their lifestyles. You can do it. You can do it. The amygdala thinks you can't because the amygdala, again, is pulling from the hippocampus archives. You've never done it. Just think about the version of you that makes it to the other side of doing it. Let's say that's leaving a partnership. Let's say it's just you moving out of the family. Having that space of not being there actually could improve the relationship with your parents, thus making that bridge to communicate better. I've seen that so much. It's such a beautiful thing to watch. So the balance can occur. It's whether or not you are willing to be the one that faces the distress or the discomfort that comes up, the cognitive dissonance, for having to be the one that makes that shift. Because expecting those dysfunctional people who are stuck in the tornado, they're in the upside down, they're preoccupied. They're not going to be able to help you. This is your mission. What are you going to do with it?